Hey guys, YouTube was down for I don't know how long, but it seems to be working again. So, just gonna do a live video. I don't know if anyone will jump on here. I don't know if anyone's even looking at YouTube anymore. Uh, but I just wanted to talk about um, the entire election season that happened in 2019 and 2020. Because I've talked a little bit about it in a couple videos, but mostly just about the general election. Um, it's been a shit show, to put it bluntly. I wasn't even going to vote last, let's see, would that be last spring? Yeah, last spring, last summer. I wasn't even going to bother. It was it was just such a joke. I mean, I'd already been down the road that we went down again this year, in the last election, and thought it was pretty pointless to get involved, to do anything, because the important issues are never brought to the forefront. People are willingly ignorant and stupid. The media casts all the wrong questions to everybody and demonizes people who want to fix things, and I just thought it was kind of useless. And then the candidates the candidates this year were just, they were awful. I think I watched some of the first Democratic debate and I was just like, okay, I'm not interested in any of this. So I was also planning on leaving the job I had and trying to find a trucking job out west, which is obviously what I'm doing now. I'm in the truck right now. And so I was kind of busy with those things, and I also had a surgery I had to get done. So I was just not really paying attention, and it was in fall. In the fall, it was maybe early September, so late summer, I guess, early September or the end of August. I don't really remember exactly when it was, but I saw one of Tulsi Gabbard's YouTube ads, and I think it was about immigration, and she was talking about how we can have a secure border and we can have immigration reform. And it wasn't actually something I agree with her on. I don't think that you can have a secure border, but the fact that she was willing to say that in the polarized political age we're in, that impressed me. So I looked into her more, and there were definitely some things I disagreed with, but the vast majority of the issues I agreed with her on. And it wasn't just the issues, it was also that she was just obviously different from everyone else, that she was willing to think outside the box, that she was talking to people as though they were adults. She wasn't intellectually infantilizing her audiences. So I decided, hell, you know what, I'll get in on this, and I got involved with the campaign. And as everyone knows, it was a colossal failure. Ended up getting, I think, maybe like 500,000 votes by the time it was all said and done. Maybe it was just 250,000. I can't remember off the top of my head, but nothing worth writing home about. But it did open my eyes to a lot of things that are wrong with our current political system. The polling system, the debates, the media. I knew some of it already, but I had no idea to the extent that it was compromised. So it really motivated me to get involved after the fact. So I kind of left Tulsi's campaign, and it wasn't really obvious who the libertarians were going to run at that point. But then the coronavirus kind of hit the United States, and I had been listening a lot to Peter Schiff, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but I talk about him a lot, so some of you might. He's an economist, and he's CEO of Euro Pacific Capital, and he was talking about a recession that was impending, and he was talking about how the Federal Reserve was going to drop interest rates to zero, how they were going to have to flood the stock market with money to keep it inflated. And before coronavirus hit, he was saying, coronavirus might accelerate this, but it's going to happen either way. And then sure enough, coronavirus hits, and the lockdowns and the economic upheaval from that was definitely not unaffected by coronavirus. But a lot of people think that we had the strongest economy in history, and that, it was just hit by a sledgehammer, and that's not true. The coronavirus was more of an unveiling of how horrible our economy is. And then the CARES Act went through and got signed into law. And I saw Thomas Massie was like the only guy in Congress who stood up to it. And, Trump was saying we need to throw him out of the Republican Party. And it pushed me into action. So that's why I started this YouTube channel. And I already had a few videos that I'd made on the show, but I decided I was going to start talking with people who were kind of on the same level as me, but try to get some higher profile guests on if I could. And I just started talking about our economy and how it's rigged for the super rich and the corporations, how a lot of the stuff that Bernie Sanders says is true, but he has the wrong solutions for it. And he also scapegoats the wrong things. Or his terms are too loose, I would say. So I decided I was going to get involved doing that, and the show kind of caught fire. I had a video that went viral, and I got up to a couple thousand subscribers pretty quickly. So then I started interviewing libertarian candidates all over the country for state and federal positions. And that was pretty cool. There were a lot of, I wasn't too crazy about Jo Jorgensen, but there were a lot of great candidates for Congress and House positions in states and in the House of Representatives and the Senate and state senates and everything. There were a lot of really good candidates, and that was pretty cool to be able to be a part of that. Then this election turned out the way it did, and I don't know, I'm not too surprised. I guess I was hopeful that it was going to go better than this, but it didn't. So right now I'm just I don't know what the move is going forward, because I talked to some people who have given up voting altogether. They were Ron Paul supporters, and then after the way he was treated twice in a row, that was enough for them. They haven't voted since then. Other people are trying to take over the Republican Party now that Trump's gone, trying to bring it back to like a Tea Party type fiscally responsible Republican Party, but I'm not really interested in that, to be honest. Partially because the Tea Party they really only care about economics. They don't really care about anything else. I guess gun rights maybe, but I'm not a libertarian just because of fiscal issues. Like, I am an anti-authoritarian, and I am not interested in throwing in with the Tea Party 2.0 if they're going to be a party that supports separation of children and parents at the border, or if they support the war on drugs, or if they support wars in the Middle East. I'm not interested in that. Like, those are deal breakers. I'm really not a political purist, and campaigning for Tulsi Gabbard should make that kind of obvious. I disagree with her on a good amount of stuff. But if you care about human rights across the board, you'll have me, typically. and she was the only one who ran this year in the duopoly that had that position. Everyone else they were terrible. I mean, some people try to compare Bernie Sanders to her. I don't think that's fair. He's against wars that Republicans start. And he's happy to sanction other countries, and he's happy for multilateral approaches to regime change. He's not a peace candidate. I was never into him at all. So Tulsi was the only one from the duopoly this year, and then Joe Jorgensen was the best voice outside of the two parties. But going forward, I'm trying to get some sort of progressive liberty coalition going. I don't know how realistic that is, but I've had talks with a few people, and I think I can deconstruct some of the ideas that progressives have, and I think if they see another venue for achieving their goal, then they'll be happy to go with it, and I will concede some of my ideas too. I'm kind of skeptical about things like publicly funded elections and some campaign finance reform laws. I'm skeptical that they'll work or that they'll be effective, but I don't care. Like, that's something I'm willing to go with. Overturning Citizens United is something that I'm cool with, although that is a more complicated ruling than people realize. And if we're overturning it, it needs to be an across-the-board deal, not just for certain nonprofit organizations. That needs to be a more consistent ruling if it's overturned. But I am cool with, some environmental regulations. I'd be cool with getting money out of politics the way they want to, if they also include the way I want to. They tend to approach it from the side of donations and lobbying. They want to ban lobbying and make it that you can only give certain size donations. I think those are fine measures, but they're only half measures if you don't restrict the government's control over the economy in return, because that's the reason lobbyists exist. So you have to remove the incentive for lobbying. But, that's somewhere where we can meet and we can hash out how we're going to approach that. A lot of progressives are friendly toward gun rights, which is a recent development in some ways, but in other ways it's not. It's just something they didn't talk about. And their candidates are in the Democratic Party and from New York City and Hawaii, so they are, the gun thing has been a hard hurdle for them to jump, but they're definitely not opposed with libertarians on that. When it comes to economics, that's obviously the biggest area of disagreement, but we do agree on getting rid of all corporate welfare, corporate subsidies, bailouts, anything like that, gone on day one. Which that's a big start, because the Democrats and Republicans do not agree with that. So, I don't agree with the Democrats or Republicans on economics either. But I think that there are better ways to approach making healthcare accessible and education affordable than having the government subsidize those programs. And I think that progressives are open-minded if you start talking to them about how you can make those things more affordable and cheaper. A lot of libertarians or right-wingers, they take the approach of, you just need to buck up and do it yourself, and you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, stop bitching. That's not a very effective argument, and also there has been predatory regulation in those areas to hurt consumers and students in the college aspect. It's been rigged against them, so to just tell them that they need to suck it up and get a job and get health care and pay off their student loans, it's not a selling message. Like, you got to talk to them about what plans you have to make the system fair, to remove the regulations that make it so easy for pharmaceutical companies to profit off of their customers and kill competition and subsequently not have prices for medicine drop. Talk about intellectual property laws that allow certain types of medicines to be protected without competition, even if they've been around for 100 years. Encourage things like health insurance cooperatives. There's tons of ways to approach this, aside from just telling them to shut up and deal with it and get a job and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's just not the best way. And then college, talk about reforming high school. I don't know. I graduated high school like 8 years ago, and for me, high school, the first 2 years seemed useful. The second 2 years, I was kind of wondering why I was still there. High school nowadays should be geared toward trying to help people figure out what they want to do, because right now high school is just something you have to get through, and then you go to college to figure out what you want to do. That makes no sense, especially since there's so many jobs that you don't need college for. You should be trying to figure out what you want to do in high school. Way fewer people should be going to college. We should stop subsidizing student loans. We should stop telling everyone to go to college. If the number of people going to college drops and the student loans disappear, you will see the price of college fall through the floor. So these are ideas that progressives can meet with us on, and we can talk about what we're going to do. But this whole idea of trying to take over the Republican Party again, since if Trump is gone, I don't think that's viable. I think the Republicans are going to hold on to Trump forever. He's their new Ronald Reagan, and I don't think he'll run again, but I think someone like him will run again, maybe even his son, or it might be someone worse. It might be someone like ultra nationalistic and more of that shallow populism. But I don't think that the Republican Party is going to change, and I think that progressives should catch a hint that the Democratic Party is not going to change. So it's been a disappointing election overall, but I've got hope moving forward that people are going to pull their heads out of their asses and try to figure out how to build a coalition that can take down this disgusting duopoly that's destroyed our system. So that's all I got. Just wanted to ramble a little bit. I will catch you guys on the next stream or the next episode.